Good afternoon. I welcome you all to our session on action on women and chemicals. For those who need information about this press conference, there's sheets at the back which you can get from our colleague there. So, reducing and eliminating women's toxic chemical exposure is key to health of women and future generations and is fundamental to guarantee the full enjoyment of human rights and achieve gender equity and environmental health. Women's chemical safety is key to economic growth without harm to the people and planet, to sustainable development and fulfillment of sustainable development goals. And if you've been following the sessions that have been taking place in UNEA, we've had a strong presence of bringing in the human rights aspect and the gender vulnerabilities that chemical and beating pollution comes with. So I would like to introduce our first speaker, Ms. Imogen Ingram from the Island Sustainability Alliance, Cook Islands. She would tell us what the island nations face in terms of mercury pollution, especially from contamination that comes from coal extracted 1,000 miles away. To you, Ms. Imogen.
Thank you very much. I became concerned during the intergovernmental negotiating conferences leading up to the Mercury Convention because the evidence showed in most countries where they ate a lot of fish, the women in childbearing age were adversely impacted, and their children were also. There was a long-running study in Denmark which especially worried me because the children had permanent brain damage which was irreversible. So I started to find out what would be the case in the Pacific Islands, and there was no evidence at all because no one had done any research. So with the assistance of IPM, the international network which we belong to, I went to 7 Pacific Island countries and collected hair samples from women's groups between the ages of 18 and 44. As we imagined, because we eat so much fish, the readings were very high. So we came up with this report, which was 25 countries in Asia Pacific, but 7 of them were in the Pacific. And then we amalgamated that information into a larger, more global report, which we reported on at Mercury COP1 in September this year. So our worry is that people just say to us, oh well, change your diet, stop eating so much fish. But that is not practical on a small island where there is no store and fish is your daily protein. So we would rather keep eating the fish but end the pollution which makes the fish contaminated and therefore unsafe to eat in large quantities. The other thing about this is that the fish aspect not only for our populations, but the populations of the countries to which all Pacific Island countries export fish. We export very large quantities overseas. So those people in the countries that receive the exported fish should also be concerned. I don't have much time, so I think I should stop there, and I can answer questions later. Thanks.
Thank you. You've been so mindful of your time. But to set some context before I invite our next speaker, small-scale gold mining is being linked to severe poverty, and it involves high levels of mercury exposure in women and children. Ms. Eunice Atino is one of the 32 women who was tested for mercury in her community, for mercury levels in her body for an IPN international study. The results were communicated back to the community, who reacted by forming a women's group called MOCAN to bring women together and discuss how they can empower each other. And now I would invite Ms. Eunice to actually share her experience with her community and why she thinks these platforms are important for them.
Can I stand up? Thank you.
Do you want to come here and speak?
Yeah.
It's better for you then.
Huh?
You can come here, podium.
Okay, I'm Eunice Atieno Juma from Migori County, from Osiri area where mining is taking place. There I work as a processor I process gold just manually because we do the washing part. This is where I get my daily bread for my children. I stand here to represent the group that we call the MOCA. It is not MOCAN, but it is MOCA. This group was formed as a result of when the IPEN and the SIGAD came and took our hair for test. It was formed after the result. So when the results came back, we decided to form a group. We said we are now birds that are falling, the birds that flock together because we had the same feathers. So MOCAN started early November, and we've met 3 times only. With this group, I can say it is for the poor, and most of women are widows, because as a result of maybe the effects of gold, you know, since mercury is not all that good to human life, it has resulted to many deaths. Up to this moment, I have many widows. For that case, we decided to, in that group, we decided to do what we call merry-go-round. This merry-go-round, when we meet, we contribute 100 bob every meeting, and this money is given to somebody at that moment. We also do what we call saving. When we contribute this amount, it is given in terms of loans. Yeah, we give somebody, and then when you return it back, you return it with the interest. That one we do in that group. The group has not taken long, but since it just started in early November, I've said we've met only 3 times. There are challenges that we face here in the mining site. The first challenge is the direct contamination of mercury. We just do it manually, so we wash it with a bare handed like that. We just touch it direct, and this one makes mercury to get into our body direct. Another thing, when we burn it, it vaporizes the concentrated air, and this air we can inhale, and it gets into our body direct like that. This one hinders our life so much. Another thing is payments. The way we are paid is very low. There's something we call long one in our terms there. This long one is 2 basins of stones. 2 basins, these basins, 2 basins, 200. And imagine, for you to do the processing part up to the end of it, it takes almost 2 to 3 hours, or maybe 4 hours. It depends on weather, or it depends on maybe, because after it gets dried, you make a line, then until it will be processed to the point that it turns to powder form. Another challenge we face is I've talked about widows. Let me read it with the specs. Yeah. Sometimes we may wash for somebody, and when he goes to sell the thing, he might go like that without paying you. maybe she got something very small, he decides to go like that. Another challenge, with challenges I don't have much, but what I wanted to say is, since we face so many problems, and those who face these problems are just women. Women really face big problems because most of them are widows, yet they have children to bring up. Some of them are sick, as you know. Those who are tested their air are many, and they are just like that. They still do the work of washing. They still just go on with mercury. And imagine, mercury is bad, as we've been told, and the EPN plus the CJAD, they created awareness to us to the extent that even we feared. By the time the test came back, the results came back, in fact we were really worried about it. And everybody is worried even up to now. They think they are going to die very soon, leaving children there, and truly speaking, it is not untrue, but it is true. They are dying. Several of them have died, only that we didn't know what is going on. Several people have died because even there is a woman who died, and when postmortem was done, the woman was found, the mercury was found on liver. That is one. Another woman was, while she was a buyer, while she was weighing the gold, the hands were shaking like that, and she was weak totally. She could not even eat with her hands. She could not stand straight like that until she went for treatment. It is good that she was treated and she's now well. Another woman working grievance, walienda kwake juzi tu, alafu kampata kama hawezi hata kiongea. She talks like a sick person ama mtu ambaye amelewa. Unaona, sasa there are problems and several of them. So what I would ask is, we need help actually. The people from Osiri, Mikei and Kabobo. Muka means Mikei, Osiri and Kabobo Women Association. I'm a women group. We really need help. For us to go on with life, please, we really need help, and we ask help from the government, from the NGOs, and anybody else who may have that kind of heart of helping. Please lend a hand. Very many people over there, children are orphans. Some are orphans total orphans, just because of gold. Another risk we face there is women die accidentally inside the hole when they are digging. We just happen to find that a message that somebody is dead inside the hole. And there are very many cases of this because it is done manually. We better get a modern way of extracting this mineral, please. So we need help in Migori. Otherwise, I can leave the remaining to grievance, please. Amen.
In fact, we had a fact-finding visit by Griffin and UNEA in the weekend where they visited where UNEA comes from. And there's also the reality that the gold levels in the mines are dropping. So now they are in need of alternate careers and phasing out and transitioning to something which is more profitable. And we have already individuals who have spoken to the team about how they would really like to transition. And independent fact-finding missions like Imagines and iPens have helped these communities to understand what is their problem, but we still haven't seen, like she said, she's afraid of her government. And this is where I would invite Minister Carolina's I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name, but and Sweden has been taking a lot of proactive measures against chemicals, and I would really like you to tell us how governments like yours give hopes to communities like yours.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you, UNEA, so much for sharing your important story. Firstly, I'm very happy to be able to participate here at the launch of the UNEP-IPIN partnership with focus on women and chemicals. Gender equality and chemicals are two issues that I myself and my government prioritize. And I can only applaud the highly accurate choice of issues for cooperation. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing the result of your cooperation and the strengthening of gender equality in relation to chemicals. In the world today, more people are living better lives than ever before. But gender equality is still a vision and not a reality. The story of Eunice is showing us this, and we know this is a fact. Sweden has therefore established the world's first feminist government. And we want to make the vision into a reality. This means that gender equality is central to the government's priorities in decision and in allocation of resources. To go one step further, Sweden also is the first country in the world to pursue a feminist foreign policy. And the aim to this is to contribute to gender equality and the full enjoyment of women's rights by all women and girls across the world. And one concrete measure is that we have decided to provide an additional €120 million over the next 5 years into gender equality worldwide. This is both an obligation within the framework of our international commitments, but also a precaution for reaching Sweden's broader foreign policy goals of peace, security, and sustainable development. Within the environmental sphere, which is my responsibility in the government, creating a toxic-free environment is one of the most challenging. Chemicals have contributed greatly and increased prosperity, but it has and still are causing serious damage to human health and to the environment. And the mercury issue is one of the strongest stories there is. We have seen a global spread and consequences for human health. But we have, on the case of mercury, unified ourselves and taken action by adopting the Minamata Convention and seeing its entry into force. And we have had a ban on mercury in Sweden into force for several years now, and we have been able to phase it out on not all practices yet, but close to all. There are alternative technologies, and it can be implemented parallel within the scope of a forthcoming economic development and profitability for businesses. To take national action on chemicals, we have a Swedish strategy for a non-toxic everyday environment. A non-toxic environment is a precaution for people's health. And within this strategy, we've highlighted chemicals that are present in our daily life, at home, in school, and in workplaces. We should all feel completely assured when buying simple products in the store and bring them home and put them in the hands of our children without hesitating. It's the responsibility of policymakers and business leaders to make that happen. And by protecting the most vulnerable groups, we do protect everyone. In that sense, and in many sense, gender and chemicals are interlinked. Women and men, girls and boys, are affected differently by chemicals and environmental toxins at different stages of their life, and they're exposed to hazardous substances in different ways, and this needs to be highlighted in research as well as in policy. This is one of the reasons that makes us prioritize the recycling process, the global framework on recycling chemicals. It is very important to implement the current goals within the recycling, but also to look forward beyond 2020 to further advance the chemicals and waste agenda. From Sweden, we are dedicated to setting a new framework for chemicals and waste to reduce the risk of the most hazardous chemicals worldwide. To conclude, there are many reasons to take action to reduce exposure of chemicals. Health, the environment, but I would like to highlight one further, gender equality. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Our next speaker is the co-chair of IPAN, Dr. Olga, and IPAN has been very instrumental in getting action on chemicals across the globe. It's a network of non-governmental organizations in 100 countries. They also have reports on mercury's effects of women in childbearing age, and that's been a basis for the local action in most countries. So I invite Dr. Olga to speak more about IPAN and the actions that they take.
So thank you very much. These days at UNEA, we have heard from critical women leaders working to empower women and protect children from pollution. And we heard from our member organization from UNEA about how actually mercury impacts their community, how people, mainly women, are suffering from this exposure. And from what I hear, this community is really calling us and requesting help and assistance from us as global institutions. And I'm so happy today and so honored to announce an official launch of the partnership between the United Nations Environmental Program and IPAN. And this partnership is focused on the actions on women and chemicals worldwide. UNEP is the leading organization just in the UN system working on environments. And IPAN is a global network of civil society organizations who are committed to achieve toxic-free future where our foods, air, water, and soil are not contaminated, and where our children are born free from toxic chemicals that cause cancer, birth defects, that disrupt their hormone system, and they may transfer to other generations. So IPAN and UNEP share common goals with regard to health worldwide. And this partnership will help us to advance these goals further. And we together with UNEP, we will enhance and mainstream the theme of women and chemicals into our global operation. Well, the decision to focus the partnership on women and chemicals was made with the idea to elevate the gender aspects into the chemical safety that has largely been ignored. So there are nearly 4 billion women on the earth, which is approximately half of the population. And we know that chemical exposure is widespread. However, actual data on the roots of the exposure and on the impact of chemicals on women is, well, very far behind. Actually, we lack and miss this data a lot. And Also, environmental assessments of many projects on chemical safety simply ignore these gender aspects, and as a result, we do not know gender susceptibility to certain chemicals, which make the outcomes of certain projects much less effective, actually. So our partnership is focused on three major components. First of all, we would like to focus on the impacts of chemicals to women and children. And we know that men and women are exposed to toxic chemicals, just a variety of toxic chemicals throughout their life. But chemicals in women's bodies actually can cross the placenta barrier and impact fetus in the mother's womb, and later on in life, when the baby is delivered, the exposures continue through breastfeeding, and that is really scary because these chemicals could cause just long life exposure, as I said, and could pass through generations. And also, women and men, they experience occupational exposure to certain chemicals. But the problem with women is that these occupations are low paid and require long work hours and exposure to chemicals. And our second aspect of our partnership is focused on decision making, on the equality in decision making. In many countries, women are really underrepresented everywhere, in the parliament, in the governmental institutions, in the committees, just everywhere. And this is the result of lack of financing, lack of education, lack of training, lack of capacity building. So definitely this issue has to be addressed. And we will focus our partnership on advancing the aspect of women and chemicals at the international arena, just as Minister Skog said. So this is one of our priorities, to push forward women and chemicals through the Sustainable Development Goals, as well as SACOM, Strategic Approach to International Chemicals Management, beyond 2020. So these are the major aspects of our partnership, and to address these and other issues on chemical safety. So we really hope that we will implement the partnership together with UNEA to the benefit for our common future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. who is the Director of the Division of Technology, Industry and Economics of the United Nations Environment Program, to also share what she thinks about this partnership.
Thank you very much. I can't say how delighted I am to be here today and to be part of this very important event, and also to partner with IPAN on this particular issue, because this is something which has not just been dear to my heart as on a personal basis, but something that the world has to look at, as the Minister very rightfully said so. We've heard the stories, very eloquent stories, which have raised our sensibilities, but these are stories which are produced and reproduced 100 times, and yet no one sufficiently listens to them. I totally agree with you, Ines. We need to do something to change this. And one of the things that really brings to mind when you were talking was the link between occupation, in this case mining, and the mercury in the mineral, in the ASM that you're working on. And this is something that can be changed. One is by looking at the production processes, but also looking at the consumption, making sure that you're not out of a job as a result of this. Now, just so you also know, there's also work that's going on, and IPAN is very welcome to also be partnering or being part of this, is with regard to mining. We're looking at small-scale mining, not just for gold, but also for other comprehensive outcomes, and the gender issue is central to that. Because as you said, vulnerability is a question which is not sufficiently addressed. And I know Sweden takes a lead role in this, but much more attention needs to be looked at. Because if you look at the women and you look at the vulnerability of women, then you are also, as you said, preserving the next generation. So it's the best insurance policy that we can think of. So it's absolutely crucial that we put this center stage. And as you said, Olga, in this particular project, we are looking at partnering in terms of how to improve decision making, but also looking at the kind of data which is required for much more improved decision making, because disaggregated data is the only data that can give us that kind of sensitivity to the policy tools that are required. So, I'm not going to take too much of your time, but just to say I'm completely on board on this, and I'm delighted to be here, delighted to partner with you and to help you, Eunice, and I'm sorry if I didn't get your name, to help you in whatever way we can to improve, the quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you, speakers. So I'd like to tell you all that when we address gender in most issues, we think gender is what women are vulnerable, but this panel is an example of how women are also in strong leadership roles in communities, in identifying their problems and taking solutions. So it's not a women panel, it makes me very happy. And now I'll open the floor to questions. We have 15 minutes, so please feel free to ask questions. Yes. Do we have a rotating mic?
Thank you. Eric is my name. I work for Recycle International, and our main line of focus is electronic waste. Ms. Eunice has just confirmed what is happening on the ground in terms of the informal activities that are taking shape. So that again take me to what is happening within the landfills, open landfills. Has that problem been addressed, and what is happening? Because let me pick an example within our major landfills within Nairobi area as well as Kisumu. So we do have women being the collectors, waste collectors, or they are being referred as scavengers. So you find some of them, they are living within the same vicinity, while others, the neighborhoods, are still being affected by what is happening, because we do have open air burning of waste, we do have informal separation of electronics that is happening on the ground, on the site. So all these exposes women and children to different chemical components to their body stream. That is, I can just summarize as heavy metal. So as you have asserted to pregnant women being affected differently, the chemical composition, that is true, it is happening. And something that we need to focus further is how to bring these issues together, because extractive industry is one. We also have e-waste. Let me just pick it as it is, e-waste, because it has a cocktail of 1,001 components of chemicals. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you also please introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Eric. I work for Recycle International.
Okay. Thank you. Would anyone like to answer that, or do we need some time to think about it, and we can ask 2 more questions? If your question is related to this, maybe we can just hear from the... Is it?
Well, you're absolutely right on this one, and this is one of the issues that we've highlighted in the Executive Director's report, which is about landfills and dump sites, because not only are they problematic in terms of the chemical mix of what they have, you call it cocktail, but the mixture of chemicals, but it's also just the sheer physical size of them, which can affect the people who live there, men, women, children, and it's almost always women and children. For example, in Ethiopia, where the dump collapsed, as you will recall, it's not just a chemical mix, but actual physical collapse. They quickly then started taking action on this, and they took action by converting that waste into energy. So we've highlighted that on our website if you have a look. But just to say that I think governments are now becoming conscious of this, that these are problems not only in terms of the actual existence of the dump, but also the fact that these can cause problems to the others. So in terms of next steps, one of the things that we are focusing on in our waste work is to look at these dump sites. And there are many of them. There are 50 which are already known to be very central and very close to habitats, and we would be focusing our attention on that. That's something that we are hoping that we can do through our partners.
I'm sorry, before we ask questions, I would really like to remind you that we're short on time. So if your questions are related to mercury contamination and the current panel's interventions, please go ahead. But for general broad systemic issues, we're only on for the rest of the 2 days, and we can have one-on-one. So unless it's very specific to this panel, please refrain.
Thank you very much. I'll be very brief. Samuel Omolo, General Manager of Biofarm Technologies, together with my colleagues. We also a link between technology, that's point of care led testing in blood, but that's for another day. But I just wanted to learn from your team the good job you did in Migori. After testing this group and you have the results, what were the remedies? What are you doing after that? Because we have the same challenge when we go out testing people for lead also, the point of care testing. What do you do after that? After getting 250 microgram per deciliter. So for your case, we'd really love to learn from that. And maybe work with IPEN also, because we also own heavy metals on the other side. We'll talk from the side. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one last question. I would request someone from the media to take this opportunity, because we've had representation from civil society. Does anyone from the media would like to ask? So we have informal conversations after this panel. You could approach them. I'm sorry, but I can't take any more questions. We have instructions. So thank you for being a part of this session. I request all civil societies and other members to approach them personally. They'll be here and you can talk to them. They can't do this right now. And thank you everyone on the panel for being with us. And I request you to also come and have a small photo session with us before we say bye. So thank you everyone. Sudan report after this session. If people are interested in it, can stay back.